Grigor Dimitrov, not just crushing a handheld item, he's full on got fork and knife, and it looks like he's getting into like a filet mignon or something, Steven.
Felix AugerAliassime.
Bianca Andreescu is a US Open champion. Shapovalov with the moment.
Lola Fernandez. It is another performance to remember for the Canadians.
All right, we are revitalized and refreshed. Kicking off our first North of the Nets episode for 2023. Brendan McCarthy and Stephen A. Boughton with you. Stephen, want to give a big kudos to you, man. This guy carries our show, keeps the slice afloat. I actually had some family matters to attend to in the latter half of 2022, so I haven't been on your laptop screen since we had Mark Rowe on a few months ago. So, Stephen, thank you for keeping us going, and I'm happy to be back for the new year.
Of course. I'm excited to get back in the driver's seat with you, covering Canadian tennis on North of the Net. Obviously, big time of the year here. Australian Open about to get rolling, and we have 5 Canadians in the main draw, possibly 6. We got Catherine Sebov in the final round of qualifying. So, yeah, anyways, Brendan, great to have you back. Rocking the Slice hats. Both of us, you guys didn't know, we have a shop on our it's one way that you guys can support the show. So the link is below. You can buy our new hats. I got the white accent. Brendan, show yours off. He's got the all black. James Bond looking fresh, clean.
Don't want to see that hair though. That's
yeah.
not hair hat on.
Yeah, no, he's got voluptuous, amazing
underused
hair.
Underused word, voluptuous.
Anyways, yeah, link below for the shop to support the show, and I guess we'll get into the rundown for today.
So, Stephen, Carlos Alcaraz made major headlines pulling out of the Aussie Open due to a leg injury. Mm-hmm. Does this effectively pave the way for Novak to rise to the top and take home the Aussie title?
Well, those are kind of two different things, right? So the Aussie Open title, I would say Djokovic was the favorite, even if Carlos is playing, but Carlos was going to be, I was super excited to see them play at a major, and it's the first major since Carlos became world number 1.
Yeah.
So I was really, really looking forward to that. So it's a damn shame that he's injured. I can't believe it. The number 1 ranking, basically 3 players can overtake Carlos now at the Australian Open. Djokovic is one of them.
Yeah.
I think if he wins the tournament, I think if he basically just wins the tournament, he'll or if he wins the tournament and like Stefanos and Casper Ruud don't like make the final or something, some combination like that, Djokovic will become number 1. Stefanos can also become number 1 if he wins the tournament. And I think Djokovic doesn't make the final, same type of thing. And then I think Ruud can as well in some scenario. But that would seem less likely to me. So I would say Djokovic has a fairly good chance, of winning this tournament now. Obviously, I think he's just become a bigger favorite. I already made a video on that. But yeah, it's a damn shame that Carlos can't be here. It sounds like it was like a freak accident in training. And yeah, just another tragic event in the last couple of years of tennis, which has been littered with disappointing things. But it's still going to be a great tournament.
Well, I was worried for Carlos, but then I saw his Calvin Klein model video. Yeah. And at first I'm like, this is so cringe. Then he started talking. I'm like, this is even more cringe. Guy's, ripped as ever, of course. But like, I'm just like, you know what? He looks like he's doing just good enough to, get a little sponsor deal from Calvin Klein.
Well, I'm sure that was shot over the break possibly. But I was going to say, that's a pretty Euro looking commercial there. We don't see underwear like that out and about here in North America too much. And I was also thinking, that commercial is like 1 year away from being like illegal, basically. He's only 19, so I was like, jeepers, it's weird. These guys are kids. Anyways.
Yeah, I saw that right before I went to bed last night. I was like, geez. No, that's fair. It probably was filmed before it went down, but still
tough to see.
Really tough to see. But with a top ranked player going down like that too, it also opens the door for perhaps one of our Canadian Canucks to perhaps make a run. We haven't done a Canadian power rankings in a while. Looking back on 2022, Steve-O, Layla riddled with injuries. Bianca took a step away from tennis to focus on her mental health. She was also dealing with injuries. Chapo had his ups and downs. Felix was probably the most consistent, and especially the latter half of 2022, November, December. I mean, instrumental in carrying Canada to the Davis Cup, a big contributing factor at the Laver Cup as well, and individually too. I mean, like, he had some really, really tough opponents early on in the majors too, but also like made some considerable runs on his own. Does he probably look like a guy who kind of carries that momentum into the new year in 2023?
Well, I think that's what Canadian fans are wondering. 3 tournaments in a row, won in the fall there, like you mentioned. I was there covering the whole run for him on the slice. And yeah, you're right. Like, he was definitely the best Canadian player last year by some margin, I would say. So yeah, it was an interesting year for Layla. She had injury issues. Bianca was kind of just getting her feet back under her after her big 6 months off.
Yeah.
And then Chapo was really, I think, doing some core growing in his game. Honestly, like, saying you take one step back to take 2 forward. Maybe, I don't know. You take a step back to take a step forward. It seemed like he had to go back, and I don't know specifically what he was working on with his coach. Maybe he was just losing, matches in a row. Like, he went on like a 6 or 7 match losing streak, but he seemed to come out of that around the time of the U.S. Open and finishing out the year playing the type of tennis that I think everyone wants to see Shapovalov play. Mind you, talking about Shapovalov.
Hey, it's Denis Shapovalov. Welcome.
Friend of the show. So I'm also optimistic for him going into the Australian Open. So maybe I throw it back at you, Brendan. I don't know if you have a list ready. If you don't, you can just chuck it, rally it back to me as they would. What is your core 4 ranking going into the Australian Open as far as Canadians who you expect to do the best in Australia?
Yeah, I almost need to catch more of a first couple round glimpse of the Aussie Open, but okay. Hey, you know what? We can predict, because that's what we do in sports. Felix and Layla both receiving the Excellence Awards in tennis. Felix got the Canada's Male Athlete of the Year award.
Yeah, that's big time.
Leon Conacher Award. Only the 4th Canadian tennis player to ever receive that. Milos won it twice, and Chapo actually won it in 2017.
Is that right?
When he was breaking in on tour. I think,
must have been a slim year.
Probably, also the year he came on the tennis map when he beat Rafa at the now called MBO.
Couldn't forget it.
Couldn't forget it all, man. I was in Europe for that. Crazy. Not covering tennis, just there for pleasure. Anywho, I think, as I was alluding to before, Felix was just dominant in 2022, and he's going to carry that momentum into the new year. I think he probably has the best shot. And you look at last year too, Steve-O, he went to the semis and he went to the quarters and lost to Daniil, and he was up 2 sets in a best of 5.
Super close,
he's got to be motivated and kind of salivating to kind of get back in there and prove he can go deep in that tournament. I mean, that's got to be kind of crushing, especially in a 5 set. They're just like marathons when you go up 2 and you got that last set and you can put them away. And then, of course, Daniil does what Daniil does best. And, he's such a potent player. You saw recently, he's like, he's going back and forth with Joker. Like, obviously his mechanics are down, but like he can also kind of get in your head a little bit. And for Felix, in short, I think I'm putting him at number 1.
Okay. You got Felix at number 1.
Felix at number 1. I didn't want to just list them and just be like, hey, back to you. So that's my argument for Felix at number 1.
Yeah.
I think Layla, I'm going to put her at number 2. I think she also had probably the strongest run of 2022 on the female side. I'm going to go off the board a little bit, and I'm going to sub in Rebecca Marino at number 3.
Ooh.
Yeah. Probably a little bit of a dark
I like that.
pick.
Throw a little respect to Rebecca Marino. She is ranked like 65, I think, going into the tournament. So that's not too shabby.
Yeah, I kind of like the underdog value here as a gambling man. I'm gonna slot her in at number 3, and then right now I'm just putting Bianca outside the top 4, and I'll put Chapo at number 4. But Marino, I don't know, might take a lot of slack for that, but.
We'll see. See. No, I think
slack.
With her game on these quick Australian Open courts, I think that's a decent move. Mine similar at the top. Felix has to be number 1, of course. In my opinion, he's actually, I've been saying this on other shows that I've gone on, I think he's actually a contender to win this title. Now, a lot of people might disagree, and people might think, oh, you're just Canadian. You got Canadian goggles on. That's why you're saying that. But
also north of the net, check out.
Yeah, who can he not beat? Like, let's be honest, who can he not beat on these type of courts? If they're quick, and I've already heard from other players like John Millman saying that the balls are firmer than last year and faster, meaning that it'll give an advantage to big hitters like Felix, big servers like Felix. So I'm very confident that he will do the best out of the Canadians. But number 2, I'm putting Chapo. I actually think Chapo, based on last year's result, he also had a great Australian Open. And like I said, he's been playing the type of way I think he needs to play to be consistent and successful on the ATP. So he's my number 2. And then I got Bianca, number 3. I don't know why. It's because, the dual interviews, but I always just believe in her game. And I do believe that she's one of the best players in the WTA. She's just got to put it together. She still hasn't been back for that long. And she really didn't have many bad losses last year. She only really lost to players who are ranked way above her. And then I got Layla. So 1, 2, 3, 4, Felix, Chapo, Bianca, Layla. But I do like that Rebecca Marino shout out, Brendan, because I think her big serve, big forehand, big game can translate really well on the Australian Open courts.
Okay, let's take a spin across the globe and go international here. Looking at the field as a whole on both the men's and the women's side, in your mind, who probably has the biggest breakout year? Let's start on the women's side.
Biggest breakout year. It's tough to define breakout, but somebody who I've had my eye on and who I put as someone who's going to finish in the top 5 as a prediction was Lyudmila Samsonova of Russia. She was a beast last year. I think she beat Bianca in a match in maybe San Jose, and she won. She was on a low key crazy winning streak. I think she won after Indian Wells or something like that. I'll pull it up right here. I'm just gonna pull it up here. She lost in Berlin, but then she won the City Open, which is a 500. She didn't play in Canada, and then she won Cleveland, which is kind of like a 250. And then at the U.S. Open, she made to the round of 16. But then she went again and won the Japan Open. 3 tournaments out of 4 played. Oh, and then actually Bianca beat her. Sorry. So Bianca ended that kind of streak that she was on there. Anyways, she's a great player. She is already pretty high ranked. I think she's in the top 20, but I think she might really make a climb to the top of the women's game. So that's the women's. But then I'm actually going to come back domestic, Brendan, for my breakout player of 2023. And it's not because he's a friend of the show. Again, Gabriel Diallo, though. He's a 6'7" Canadian baller. And this kid can play. And he's super driven. He's the nicest kid ever. He actually trains at Felix's dad's academy, or has at least when he's home in the Montreal area. So he is, he to me has raw talent. 6'7", like I said, makes Felix look small when they stand beside each other. And he's got a big game. He lost in the first round of qualifying at the Australian Open, but he only played 12 tournaments last year, and he's ranked just outside the top 200. So he is gonna, in my opinion, break into the top 100 this year. It would not surprise me at all. And we'll watch out for him on the Challenger Tour and getting wild cards into some 250s and just making, and he'll be playing qualifiers probably at all 4 majors. So he's going to be my prediction for Breakout Player of the Year. I don't want to put any pressure on him. So Gabe, if you're watching, don't feel any pressure. Just go and stick it to him.
I forgot he was 6'7", man. Absolute tank.
Just looks like Jar Jar Binks, lanky, just super long and just deadly. Just deadly.
Speaking of driven, the producers of Drive to Survive are also
what a transition.
Not bad. Also producing Breakpoint, a new tennis Netflix docu-series, which airs in 2 days. We're recording this episode on January 11th. The first episode airs on January 13th. Steven, before we started recording today, man, I took another peek at the trailer. Mm-hmm. It looks unreal, and I'm also relieved that tennis is also getting the spotlight and covering each player individually on tour, for smaller tournaments, for slams. We get to see Kyrgios raw reactions when he's in game, but now behind the scenes when he's off the court. Sakari's going to be involved. It looks like it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to tune in, man.
Yeah, I think the whole tennis world can't wait to tune in. And I think a lot of people are interested to see, especially in the tennis media world, they're talking, is this going to grow the game? Is this going to bring new fans into the sport? Because I know personally some friends of mine who like never cared about F1 at all and now are like addicted to following, the F1 circuit because they like, really got intrigued by these players. So we're all hoping like a similar thing happens in tennis. I've heard some of the press reviews come out and say it's not as good as Drive to Survive. It's more of like seems a bit like a PR stunt. So I'm personally hoping it's not like a PR stunt. I hope it's like, if and I've also heard that it's really it's not really meant for hardcore followers of tennis like you and I. It's more for like the general sports fan to get introduced to like the game and to like follow these players and get to know them. So I think, you got to go into it with that knowledge, kind of knowing it's for like the general sports fan. But yeah, I think it's just an awesome opportunity for tennis to have Netflix, be right in our business, showing off the characters and the storylines of tennis. So even when I was in Europe, I actually I was standing beside another camera guy. I was like, we got chatting, and I was like, who are you here with? And he's like, oh, I'm with Netflix. I'm with the Netflix crew. And I was like, nice. Okay. Just the Slice and Netflix working side by side. But yeah, it's cool to see.
But yeah, to your point, man, that's how it should be crafted, right? Like kind of here's a general like overview, kind of like a fundamental look at it, not like hair like right in your face, like you're watching tennis night and day. Because how many people like who watch Drive to Survive, you talk to buddies and it'd be like, oh yeah, like can't wait for the race this week, and I'm like, this is the first time I like I never knew you were a fan of F1. And he's like, oh yeah, I started watching the Drive to Survive on Netflix. You got to check it out. So like, just someone who was just like a hockey guy or like a baseball guy. Like I haven't watched Drive to Survive yet. All my friends are telling me I gotta tune in and check it out. But I think like you said, like it's gonna be similar to that where it's just like, okay, I wasn't a fan, but now I am.
Yeah.
And it's just great to get, it just kind of grows tennis a little bit more, and for it to be on Netflix too. And a kind of a bleak January month where really, what else do we have other than my bros B-Day and the Aussie Open? So it's a perfect time to let it go.
That is, let it rip, give her a rip, bud, as we would say up here in Canada.
I don't say that, man. I find that.
Is that more of a Western thing? That's like a Western hoser thing, like where I'm from.
Yeah.
You guys are so proper out in Ontario. You high society elites.
I wonder what people are gonna prefer, the kind of the black mesh or the white mesh. I'm kind of indifferent, but
I kind of like the black. It's like, to be honest, the black looks a little more sleek, I think. But
yeah.
Anyways, what's up next?
All right, there was a ton of, since I've last seen you, I've seen an array of good tweets that I've been hoping to share. Of course, seeing Billie Jean practicing her volleys like she's ready to play at the Aussie Open. Well, that's a bit of a stretch. It was just cool to see. She's what, like 72 or something? Probably a little bit.
Something like that. Yeah.
And she just was, making volleys with ease. So it was really, really cool to see. My tweet of the week is from the United Cup. Grigor Dimitrov, not just crushing a handheld item, he is full on got fork and knife, and it looks like he's getting into like a filet mignon or something, Steven.
I saw that. He's getting down on some type of food there, like that. I guess that was like when his teammates were playing, so they're just like sitting off to the side. Makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Man's hungry, he's got to eat. Man's got to eat.
Got to eat, man. Got to get the steak and the beans in you. No mashed potatoes though, because he'd be not ready to go play a set after that.
Fair enough. That's all that. That's pretty funny. We just threw it on the screen there for you guys. My tweet of the week is not a video. Well, it's a screenshot of a video. It's a screenshot of a tweet. Got it up there right now. Defending champ Thanasi Kokkinakis pushes past top seed Andrei Rublev in 3 sets to reach the quarterfinals in Adelaide.
Huge.
Friend of the show, Thanasi Kokkinakis, always turns on the magic in his hometown of Adelaide, where he won last year.
Yeah.
Now he just took out, I think, the top seed in Rublev. So he's able to just like tap into the hometown magic anytime he wants. And that's just awesome tennis TV to watch. So that's my tweet of the week, is seeing that. There was a lot of good ones though. Yeah. Like you mentioned, the Carlos underwear commercial, that That was a lot to take in. That was another tweet from people that we saw. But yeah,
we almost got to roll out with that video.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I feel if I feel comfortable putting that video on our screen. But
well, next time we're back, Steve-O, we're going to be in the bulk of the Aussie Open tournament. We're going to have some guests on.
Correct.
And in the meantime, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, Twitter. Check out the link below to get your hands on some apparel. And thanks for tuning in to this episode of North of the Net.